self-published book, Rain. It is a psychological thriller about a group of young adults in a psych ward who get this new counselor that's trying to understand their mental illnesses and trying to understand them. But then the counselor shortly learns that these kids might not be crazy and that this place is actually making them crazy, all the while trying to figure out what's going on with him and his psychological demons and his problems. If you would like more information about this book, be sure to hit the link in the description box below. Supporting me and buying these books actually helps. So, the Changeling Season 1, Episode 1, First Comes Love. The intro at first did make me question the show due to the Odyssey opening, but I did enjoy the old age Odyssey voyage-esque theme. It's told by a third-person narrator, and the setting is New York City. Lakeith Stanfield, and who doesn't love Lakeith Stanfield? We stand. So his character's name is Apollo, the god Apollo, and he has a nice old-fashioned style. I love everything about the old New York theme, the style for the specific time and the setting. Even the music is good. There's this scene that is like straight out of Stephen King's Dr. Sleep, the film where Apollo is a child and he opens the door to his dad wearing a blue mask. But the point I'm referring to is a scene in Dr. Sleep, the long corridor bathroom scene to the door. That eerie music scene of it all with the bathwater overflowing. It's a great scene. Also, the playlist, they played a Tribe Called Quest song. So, despite his mishaps, I do feel like having the name Apollo gave his character a lot of confidence and pride within himself. So, the girlfriend, she ends up going on a trip, Emma, to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And while in the woods, she sees this witch who reaches out a finger to drag her along to her. She then comes back from her trip and tells Apollo what happened. And she tells him and shows him this red string that the witch tied around her wrist and was said to not cut it in Portuguese. Eventually, Emma and Apollo get married. She ends up getting pregnant, and the friend later on tells Apollo that the mother of his child and his wife, aka Emma, took a nude photo with the photographer, and I'm assuming, based off what the friend said, and the friend did say she was a sorceress, she looked like a sorceress, that she was possessed, because the friend not only said it, but the photographer sell the photo or have it up on display, but that she looked like a sorceress in the photo. Emma ends up having the baby on the train in New York City. End up naming him Brian, and the episode ends with a telling historical quote. This was a good first episode. Great storytelling that I've seen done well in a very long time, I feel, especially with recent shows I've been watching. So, tell me your journey, tell me your life's voyage, and I will tell you who you are. Episode 2, Then Comes a Baby in a Baby Carriage, which is a song, childhood song. So this episode opens up with the quote and a little girl staring at a fire. The second episode seems to now have an intro song. So the mother of Apollo's child, Emma, she isn't doing so well, and her sister comes to visit. Her husband's mother and, of course, her husband are all at their apartment. Her and her sister are bonding under the covers, and it sounds like Apollo's father is the narrator this time. Apollo and Brian go to his friend's garage looking for some stuff to search through old boxes. Turns out he went and found an old book called To Kill a Mockingbird, as most people probably know, and it was signed by Harper Lee, who was the author, I believe, though it was to Truman Capote, which is crazy. Yeah, he's like, we can get $10,000 for this, and she's like, we can get a house, so that's their goal. They're in the bookstore, and white people are not minding their business. So this lady, for one, she's like, that carrier is too small, and he's like, oh, do you have kids? No? Okay, tell me when you do. And the friend tells her F off. Honestly, why was she in their business in the first place? People in the bookstore were staring like they have never seen a baby before. Like, if people gotta change their babies' diapers, just leave them be. Meanwhile, someone has been sending Emma disappearing photos of Apollo and the baby. They share the struggles of parenting after she asks about the deleted photos Apollo seems to know nothing about. And Brian, the baby, ends up biting Emma even though he is a newborn with no teeth. So basically, the curse is beginning to take its toll. Emma is losing her mind. She's lacking sleep, lethargic, and walking down the street yelling at the baby. this homeless guy on the street screams that it's not a baby, and at this point it seems like she's haunted because another photo is sent and she's losing it because of everything. So she is told about eventually what really happened to her parents by her sister, how they died in the house fire, which her mom ended up setting, and her father went back in to basically die with the mom after getting the kids out, her sister out. Tells a story of what is occurring with Emma with her hallucinations, and she recites this haunting line saying, "You can't see, but you will," to Apollo before she walks out, in relation to the baby and that whole situation, which she was told him like the baby bit her. And the music in this scene is so eerie, it brings me chills. So yes, this show is, like I said, it's great with each episode. So episode 3, Emma has completely lost it basically. She's turned into something else while she has Apollo chained up. She's whacked him out and is like, Brian isn't a baby. See, she should have never gone up to that lady, nor should have Apollo cut that string, because they basically cursed themselves. Not only that, but the witch did warn her, like basically a life for these 3 wishes. Like, you gonna get these 3 wishes, but it's gonna be a price. So eventually Apollo is counseling, or he's at this group rehab therapy where he talks about how he went looking for Emma with a shotgun after she took the baby and disappeared. She's basically missing. Apollo's friend and Apollo's friend's girl let Apollo come over and eat. He discovers from his mom that the dreams he was having this whole time about his dad were memories, and his dad was actually there, and they weren't just things of imagination. They weren't just dreams. He ends up running out of the therapy group when a lady is yelling the same things that Emma was yelling before about the disappearing photos. And Apollo meets someone else who was in the group therapy who coincidentally recorded him, but is suddenly like, I don't know why I did that. He discovers news about the wise ones, and he learns that from mythology, they are the ones who warn Emma to not go and speak to the witch. So for the wise ones, so Apollo and his friend wait to meet this guy who is supposed to buy the book, and who is also the guy who was in the group therapy with Apollo. He ends up learning from this man, William, that Emma is alive, and he's just like, Jeff, where? Then they decide to get on a boat and go find her. They make it to this island, and Apollo shows up yelling and screaming. Meanwhile, William is in the background, which seems like he set the whole thing up, and Apollo ends up being drowned. So come to find out, William is a liar and a stalker psycho who stalked Apollo, planned the whole thing, took photos of him, stalked his life / his wife. Talk about a super fan. William starts weeping and sobbing like, no. Like, sir, you played in Apollo's face. I personally did not care about his sobs nor his acting sob story. Not one bit, because he's nuts. The episode ends with the mom staring idly near the water right before William tells Apollo that everyone's gonna die. Episode 5, this woman's work. It opens up with when Emma was in Brazil in the woods and met the witch. First, she ran away, and the Brazilian guy told her that the lady is a witch and the waterfall is haunted, so don't go there or let the lady touch you. But Emma ends up taking that chance and doing the exact opposite. The narrator tells a story about how complex a woman is and is not to be controlled or something. I'm paraphrasing. She ends up meeting a photographer who wants to photograph her, and she declines, but when he goes to pee, she gets nude in the woods and takes a photo of herself. Apollo's released from the cage by the head lady. Basically go look for Emma, and a flashback is shown of the wedding when Emma threw the flowers for the ladies to catch, but they flew right over the floor into the street and run over instead of into anyone's hands or on the ground. Talk about bad luck. I feel like from the very beginning it was bad luck with them too. Maybe even before the witch. They weren't even, honestly, probably even compatible or were supposed to be together. Flashback is still going, and Emma is with the baby who ends up biting her once again. They eat, and the lady tells Apollo a story about babies. Basically a story he also read to Emma, and it's sort of this like riddle. And she tells him that the book tells the truth. The book is also a book his father read to him. Whew, so many connections. He has a flashback after the lady tells him they are witches on the island. He learns that the book is the truth, which makes him think about how he didn't believe Emma, but now he wants to. And later on, Apollo learns that the guy he came with is truly a psychopath who killed his daughter, I think, allegedly. It wasn't confirmed officially, but he did also empty out his wife's account of about 70K and wrote the name Agnes on the pages of the book. Brian's posted single page. And in the To Kill a Mockingbird book, so William is possessed in this cage, revealing himself. I believe he was speaking Norwegian, if I'm not mistaken. So Apollo realizes something and says kindergarten, and the episode ends with Emma's photo up on display being admired by this weird-looking, I assume, the photographer guy. He is outside holding his daughter, and he sees the photo and sees the photographer looking at Emma's photo, which is plastered inside of his gallery space or office. Episode 6, Aftermath. Emma's sister finds her after Emma escapes the apartment and tosses her phone in the trash. Her sister basically tells her that she has to go and figure out what is wrong and what has happened. She ends up on the island where we previously saw Apollo with the lady and the other witches. And she's like, "Where is my baby?" So they end up looking for Emma in a cage. Emma ends up sketching the quote from the book into a wall with a stick, and the woman lets her out after she asks about a library. She, of course, goes looking for a boat to escape. She ends up finding a boat to escape that ends up somewhere at the library. She tells the lady she needs the internet, basically, but ends up getting a ride through this underground train station tunnel from this guy where a bunch of people live and have their own community. It's kind of like underground, kind of like a train station, but underground train station. The lady tells her, though, before she leaves, that if you get caught, you're basically on your own. Don't say you were ever here or mention the island. This episode reminds me a bit of Neil Gaiman's book Neverwhere for some reason. I think small parts like the tunnel and the upside down are things that come to mind, although I have not read that book in a while. Emma returns but decides to leave for good after returning some books and gives the lady a book. She tells her that if her son comes for her, give him the book, and she sets sail. The lady tells Emma basically good luck as she rolls away, glowing, saying, "Mama's coming for you," radiating blue, in reference to her gonna go get her baby. So episode 7, Stormy Weather. Apollo's mother opens the scene, and the narrator talks about how history is created by being basically rewritten. She ends up in a hotel, smoking and drinking her life away, while being haunted by flashbacks of herself and the husband. And the infamous line, "Tell me who you are," quote reoccurs, and we see she is haunted by her past. The Uganda incident haunts her as the narrator tells a tale. She goes on to tell the story about her and Apollo's father, basically unhappy, but she needed him. She ends up singing to the guy who is in a rundown hotel bed in a room, and he looks to be her husband. He dies after she finishes the song, but to shift to her on stage, she's singing, and she has a really nice voice, and the song is nice. It puts me to sleep in a good way, like a lullaby. He disappeared afterward. She's like voice recording it, looks like, and going through it in the hotel. A throwback is shown as she tells a story, and there was a part where Apollo's dad threatens her, and he's like, "Yeah, no one will look for you because you have no family anyway." Mind you, that was a slight jab, low-key threat that he tried to make seem casual. The man gave off psycho energy to her, basically with some razzle-dazzle charm. But anyway, turns out the dad was trying to drown Apollo. She saves herself from herself by jumping out the window for knocking the dad out in the head. But to be honest, he was mad and he was gonna kill her son, who's also a child. I don't feel bad. He was nuts. So like I said, she saves herself from herself in the end, and etched, "If you are looking for a sign, this is it." She put it on the desk and she walks out. American. A story tale is etched into the table. It talks about how jokers refuse to pick up trash, parade days, some significance to the show and episode season 1, I suppose, too, especially with this being New York City and trash references. in relation to her child being conceived. It ends with, in America, we rewrite history by rewriting it, literally. But some things in history cannot be buried for long, and it ends with the suitcase, as we know, the metaphor. And man, this show was so good. It was such an eerie feel to it. The storytelling, down to the acting, 10 out of 10. The Battle of the Island opens with the flashback and the intro from episode 1 of the sea and the boat given Odyssey feels. The narrator says, how did they make it? They had help, that's how. Turns out the dude William, as we know, who's insane, is a part of this kindergarten operation secret team. They're the FBI, I don't know. He has become some sort of monster on the island, leading everyone to escape. They escape, and the main lady, the leader, she helps Apollo get on the boat to Emma. She tells him that's what she did. She went to get their son, and she glowed. Apollo must find his wife to believe, and how she wants to see her son, the woman who's helping him out, and is tired, so she basically sacrifices herself to get Apollo to where he needs to go. The lady ends up killing a guy, William, and she kills herself afterwards so Apollo can get away, and the sky opens up on, I'm assuming, Orion's belt, not really sure. Apollo sails himself away to keep going. The narrator tells the tale of a baby is a dream that becomes real. It ends with Emma like, I'm coming, and Apollo. But then we see the kindergarten group watching, I guess, on the new part of the island. And it ends with Apollo seeing a giant eye in the end, which kind of confused me. It seemed random as hell. But I'm just like, will there be a season 2? That's the real question.